Resource Watch is brought to you in association with Tebe Investment Corporation.
Hello and welcome to the special edition of Resource Watch. The resources sector is still a big part of the African growth story. So we're coming to you from Mining Lekgotla 2014 in South Africa. I'm Nozi Pombanjo, and today we're going to be digging into the trends that are driving mining industries across the continent.
Going forward, we should begin to change the way we do business in mining. One, we should be able to have contracts that are a win-win situation with industry getting their own profits, but also the country benefiting. But we also need to use the extractive industries to kickstart industrialization, both with the upstream and downstream linkages.
Namibia is famous for diamonds as well as uranium and several other minerals. But uranium, the prices have been depressed. You're talking of prices around $28 per pound right now. And now that is common to South Africa as well, or any other African country that is in uranium. We are both faced with those challenges. But for Namibia, we are now developing, as we speak, in spite of that, a mega mine, which is going to be the second largest uranium mine in the world.
DRC is a big producer of copper, cobalt, and diamond, and we are starting our producing also gold. So the trend is very good in copper and cobalt. For the first time last year, we did catch Zambia and a little bit surpassed Zambia in terms of production. We are around 914,000 tons. We are hoping to achieve 1 million tons per year. That will depend on energy.
In the country of the Republic of Botswana, we are seeing an unprecedented levels of exploration taking place. We've already discovered significant amounts of coal to the tune of over 200 billion tons, and we reckon that those resources rate us at the second largest coal reserves in the continent of Africa, only second to South Africa. So we believe that there's quite a significant amounts of minerals in Botswana.
We're speaking to the President of the Chamber of Mines of South Africa, Mr. Mike Dekker. Thank you so much for making the time to join us today. 20 years in this new democratic dispensation. What has been the key achievement of the mining sector?
Well, I've mentioned, we spoke about the regulatory environment, that post-1994, we know the work that was done up to 2002, then 2004, where we had the MPRDA proclaimed, and we've seen how the MPRDA has been implemented. Yes, there are challenges in terms of the full implementation. What I mean by that, right now it's 2014, 10 years later, everybody's asking a question about A, have we achieved what we wanted to achieve? B, has the mining charter delivered? C, what's happening in terms of ownership, in terms of the mining houses? The second part, from a regulatory point of view, operationally, the mining industry has seen an improved safety record. In 2003, this industry had fatalities of around 270 people. Last year, it was the first time we were below 100 fatalities in this industry. And I'm not saying 93 people is less, but one fatality is one too many. But at least we are moving towards zero harm, where we want to end up with zero fatalities in the industry.
Mike, I want us to go back to the first issue you raised. You spoke about our 10-year review of our legislation and taking into cognizance how far we've come. What is your assessment? Have we done well, or have we fallen short of the targets we've set?
Look, from all the 9 legs of the mining charter, talking about from ownership, skills development, employment equity, living condition as in housing, affirmative procurement, lots of traction has taken place. We've seen a lot of good stories happening from an ownership point of view up to the last part. The most important thing is that this is a moving feast. You will always have newcomers coming in. You'll always see transactions coming in. And some of the people will sell and exit. Some of the people will stay in. In terms of employment equity, it's a skills challenge. We need to improve. So between the period 2004 and now in 2014, I still believe that there's a lot that still needs to be done.
What about the forward and the backward linkages to the broader economic imperatives? And in particular, I'm looking at the industry's ability to beneficiate, to create the jobs. How have we fared on that front?
We are a strong industry that contributes to economic growth, GDP contribution. We can grow that. We can be strong. We can create jobs. The most important part for us is to be able to sustain that going forward. And that requires a partnership between labor, government, and us as business. That alliance is critical to ensure that if we call ourselves a growth industry, if we call ourselves an industry that can create jobs, then we need to support the imperatives of the National Development Plan. We are clear about the National Development Plan. We are at the forefront of wishing to see it succeed.
And finally, if we were to look at factors that are a threat to what has been achieved going forward, what should we be looking out for and making sure that we manage so that we don't lose or forgo the gains over the last 20 years?
Number one, this industry is a cyclical industry. If the commodity cycle stays flat and you're not seeing any improvements, that's one of the risks, because then businesses struggle to sustain themselves. Businesses struggle to grow. That's number one. Number two, the challenge you face is the partnership I'm talking about. If we fail to work coherently in understanding that the regulations or the regulatory environment belongs to us, we are the citizens of South Africa. Number three is to share the same agenda. I don't believe that we can fail on the third one, because we've got the NDP. We don't need any other plan, and this country can go forward.
Mike, thank you for making the time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're speaking to Mr. Mashego, Executive Director at Harmony Gold, one of the companies that are central to the conversation on transformation in the mining sector here in South Africa. Now, I understand that is exactly what you were talking about in one of the earlier sessions. What was the key message that you wanted the audience to take away around your role in driving the transformation agenda?
No, Zippo, the one thing that came out very, very clearly in terms of the discussion is the fact that we are not where we want to be, but at the same time, we are not where we used to be. It's a journey that we have started, and we believe in that journey. We believe that given the time and as we move together in partnerships with the different stakeholders, we will eventually transform our country. It's an obligation that we all have as responsible corporate citizens in South Africa.
As sincerely as you can, do you believe that mining companies have played their part and they've done enough in driving the transformation agenda?
I believe so. I mean, I'm a miner myself, and I want to believe that the fruits of that transformation can be seen and can be reaped by the different communities. However, the challenge is, if one were to look at the kinds of expectations that are out there in the communities and what we have already delivered, you find that there is a mismatch, and that obviously will always be the case, because the communities grow, the communities tend to have different dynamics that are at play, and it's never enough. But I want to believe that there is genuinely commitment from the mining sector to transform the industry.
Are there any models that have been effective when you see companies engaging with communities around this particular agenda that we can say this has worked and this can be replicated in other communities?
If one were to look at, I'll take Harmony as an example. If you look into the Machabeng area, which is in Velkom, there's quite a number of investment initiatives that have been done in that particular area, especially in the area of providing rental stock for housing. I mean, there's a project that we have worked in partnership there with Department of Human Settlement, which is a project to the tune of about 350 million that we have worked together, whereby we converted old hostels into family units. It's one example. You look at what Anglo Gold is doing in the space of developing of schools, building new schools, building libraries. You look at Lonmin in that space of building houses. So there are sort of pockets of excellence in the industry, but as I indicated earlier on, Whether that's enough,
Yeah.
I mean, I would say the communities will say it's not enough.
And of course, all of this is occurring under the broader rubric of the BEE Charter as the framework that we're operating against. How have you performed as a company against some of those targets?
The Mining Charter is the guiding document for us in terms of legislation. And 2014 is the year whereby by the end of 2014, we would be measured to see how far have we fared. Thus far, there's an exercise that was done by some consultants, Muloto Solutions, and the results of that exercise have not yet been divulged. So I would like us to leave it at that because the final assessment still needs to be done.
I appreciate the fact that you possibly can't divulge the outcomes of that review as yet, but there's also been talk that the government could pull away some of the operating licenses from those who have failed to comply. What are you doing now to ensure that you're prepared should that outcome lead in that direction?
I'll answer your question two ways. Okay, the one is the statement that was uttered by the minister this morning, which was echoed by the deputy minister, whereby they said that in terms of legislation, government cannot just pull off the license. If there are areas of non-compliance, then the company would be given an opportunity to rectify that situation. So it's not an automatic withdrawal of that license. People are given, there is what you would call the Section 93, whereby you're given some time frames for you to go and rectify the situation. Failing which, then I want to believe that government then will take drastic steps to withdraw those licenses. On the other hand, as an industry, we are preparing ourselves. Already we are doing our internal audits to see how far are we faring in terms of delivering on those charter requirements or charter targets, and putting in some acceleration in some of the projects to ensure that come December we come in and we comply.
Finally, Mashego, we've seen some mining companies divesting in South Africa, with the big Anglo-American player that is almost considered as the founders of mining in South Africa, and it's a trend that many fear is likely to continue. Where does Harmony Gold stand? Are you going to be increasing your investment in South Africa, or are you going to be pulling out?
We have continued to increase our investment in South Africa, and we've got a big footprint in South Africa. We're proudly South African. We need, however, to look into the whole question of saying where are opportunities coming up in terms of investment opportunities, because we need to diversify. The one disadvantage that you tend to have as a company when you are based in one geographic area is that you tend to be overexposed, as we are right now. We're overexposed in terms of the rand-dollar exchange and the gold price. So our share price tends to sort of react when something happens to the rand. So we would look into...
They say gold is coming back though. Are you seeing this? I mean, your production numbers are up. Are we in a positive cycle for gold now?
We are quite optimistic about the gold, to say.
I'm expecting good results. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
That's it for this week's episode. Do continue the conversation on Twitter, following me at Nozipombandwa or at CNBC Africa, and our hashtag is ResourceWatch. From myself and the team, it's goodbye for now.